right, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. Yay, another week is over. We're getting close to the end. What do we got? About 2 more weeks of school left? It's unbelievable how quickly this time has gone by. Unreal. So, we are going to jump into today's lesson today. Again, first of all, just again, a big shout out to everybody in this club. I know you guys are probably getting tired of me saying this, but just really proud of everybody in this club. I wasn't sure about creating the club at first, if anybody was going to want to be in it, and how this was going to go, but so glad that I did. So much so that even next year, I think we'll definitely try to get an actual drawing club together, both physically and maybe even do a virtual one like this so that we can stay connected outside of school. That's the one big benefit with the live stream here, is that we don't have to be at school, and we can still connect with each other in some way. So thank you for helping make this really successful. I've been trying to reach out to some local artists that I know of that have inspired me a little bit, to see if they would come on with us. So I'm still waiting to hear back on some of them. I know the couple that I've reached out to, they are fairly busy, fairly popular, but you never know. So we'll see if that happens, and they can only come at a certain time or day or whatever. I will let you guys know, and we'll have a special edition of our drawing club. But I wanted to have them on just because these are some of the people that I look at as far as their YouTubes and their books I've bought, even some of their courses I've taken. So if we can, that would be awesome. If not, you're stuck with me, and we'll do our best. All right. So one of the things I wanted to continue going over with you guys is, let me bring up my Photoshop here. All right, so this is kind of what we were talking about last week, right? Just drawing the torsos, the egg shape, the bean shape, and how your upper torso and your pelvis, those are hard and inflexible because they're bone. And then the part in between, right? Let me grab my... This part in between is sort of the fleshy part that moves, right, that flexes. And then how do we create more sort of dynamic characters? So we're going to continue on with that, because I think it's really important to think about when you draw is creating some type of flow and rhythm, and also just making things feel more dynamic. It's very easy, again, to fall into the habit of sort of a straight up and down character, right? Where this is their torso, and this is their pelvis, and that's like a character at rest. It's not really telling a story. Doesn't mean you can't ever draw that, right? But it doesn't tell much of a story. When you have somebody sort of at rest like that. So we're going to continue on with that. Let me go ahead and set up a blank layer here. So again, I'm going to pop in and out so you guys don't have to constantly just be staring at me, looking around or looking down. But I'll pop in and out as I feel necessary, maybe to show you certain things or what have you. But I'm going to pop out of here for now, and I'm going to keep talking. So one of the things, again, when we talk about just drawing in general, all right, again, I'm going to draw sort of that egg shape, and I'm going to draw just the upper torso here of a figure. And again, as you get better and better at drawing the egg shape, you'll get better and better at actually drawing the torso. And remember, just like you guys do, and you guys always do a great job with your faces in those Loomis heads, right? We want to sort of point out where the center of this torso is. So just draw that line. And let's dip that down a little bit like that. All right, and again, I'll draw the pelvis down here. We'll dip the pelvis like this. And this hole's going to be a little bigger because it's closer to us. All right, so again, I always like to draw dots because it helps me visualize how dynamic a pose is, or how undynamic, if that's a word, a pose is. So, you know, if you want to just draw a dot here and then draw a dot here. So what this tells me when I'm looking at this pose, and again, we're going to fill in right here our soft sort of midsection. But this, I can draw a straight line up and down. That's not a very dynamic pose. All right. It's a pose at rest. Do we need those poses when we draw? Absolutely. Because, I mean, in life, we're oftentimes just at rest. All right. And either today or next live stream, I can show you how to even make people that are at rest feel like there's some sort of dynamic element to them or some flow to it. Because you just don't, again, you don't want everything to be stiff, straight up and down. It just doesn't tell a story. So, how do we correct that? So what you want to do, honestly, is start to separate your torso. And this is, again, we're talking about being artists. We're talking about experimenting and being creative. So try to separate your torso. So I'm going to draw another torso over here. Again, I'm not looking for it to be perfect. I'm just going to draw something like this. And just want a basic shape of how the torso is moving. Again, maybe the center line's here. I've twisted it a little this way. So, I don't want to put, if this is the line here, I'm going to maybe put the torso over here a little bit. I'm sorry, the pelvis. Over here a little bit. All right, and there's the line there. Again, these don't have to be perfect. You know, you just have your basic shape. So you can see that this is off center now. This is not going straight up and down. It's got this sort of curve to it. These lines are curving now. So this, now we're starting to create that dynamic pose. When you do the fill in the center, it's curving. This is curving too over this way. So now your arms can be, if you're going to build some arms, maybe your arms come out this way, right? Maybe your head's leaning out this way. The other legs maybe coming out this way, and then this leg maybe it's coming out this way. Just a more of a dynamic pose. You can feel the movement in this pose. And that's what you want. You want to feel some type of movement or some type of dynamic in your drawings. Especially, again, if you're telling a story. If you're not just doing a still life, portrait. But if you're trying to communicate action or story or drama, you want to know how to create that flow. And that's usually how you do it. You separate somehow. You do not want the dots to line up like that. Never. Even if it's just slightly over. And that's what we were talking about when we were talking about standing. Right? Even when you're standing. So let's do another quick pose here. So I'm just going to have maybe, and I'm just drawing the torso. I'm sorry. I keep making that mistake. The rib cage. Right? Or the torso here. Maybe put a face here. Maybe put an arm here, like he's looking at us. This way. His shoulders here. And we'll drop down that shoulder. Alright. and then the midsections here, and the torso. So I'm gonna have, again, if I'm putting the dot here, I wanna have the torso, even if it's just, I'm sorry, the pelvis, even if it's just slightly off. I'm gonna put it off just a little bit over here. All right, when I draw in the center of my pelvis. So it's not dropping down, it still curves a little bit. And what that does, it just gives your character some weight. It just gives your character some weight to how he's standing, or she. And that's what you want. Maybe we just drop this down this way a little bit. So that's what you want. Again, not perfect, but it's a basic pose here. And then once you get your pose down, and that's why it's so important to get these simple sort of ideas down and these simple shapes down. Once you start getting your poses down, then you go back and you add on to the poses. So again, you just, what you're looking to do is you're looking to line up the drop this down a little bit. All right, so again, you're just looking to sort of make sure that we're not lining up too perfectly with the torso and the pelvis. Again, when, you know, even if you got a character that's maybe throwing a punch, there's a great artist, Jack Kirby, who used to draw for Marvel. And this kind of technique was sort of made famous by him. Was this whole idea of not lining up these elements here. There we go. Okay. So again, a lot of times when Jack Kirby would draw on these figures, again, his whole idea was to not line this up. We don't want the torso down here. We want to put it maybe over here. I'm sorry, the pelvis. So I'm going to draw the pelvis over here. You can see we have that dynamic sort of pose, and then he would put the arm here, and he would put the person punching like that. The leg would be here, and then the other leg would be out here. And of course your neck here. And he would curve in, and that's how you attach. Remember that you attach your upper torso with your pelvis here. That's what's going to flex. That's what's going to give the idea that your person's moving and that they're flexible. Right? These two upper parts, your torso or rib cage, and then your pelvis. Move them. You want to separate them. So, like I said, you want to separate them somehow. This is your rib cage, and this is your pelvis. You want to just slightly start moving them away from each other. If you want to create some type of flow or some type of dynamic pose. And really, again, when you're drawing, that's what you want to do. Right? You want to create some type of story. And a lot of people that I talk to, when I start talking about stories, they think traditional you're writing words and you're putting them in a book, you're telling a story. No, we're talking about communicating visually through our drawings, through the lines, the shapes, the colors. We're telling a story. So again, that's what we want to do. The other thing we want to practice eventually is, just the different ways that the rib cage is going to be positioned. Just start practicing with that shape. So like for instance, this is a rib cage with, this is the armhole here, right? It's kind of tilted a little bit that way, so you can't see the upper neck, right? Then there's a torso that's kind of maybe a rib cage. It's kind of like this, right? You want to think in 3 dimensions. So there's you can kind of see the bottom of the rib cage a little bit. You can kind of see maybe this arm a little bit. Maybe this arm's over here. Then maybe this is the top of the rib cage. Right? That's where the neck would be. That's where the 2 arms would go. That's the center. Right? And this is, again, your traditional maybe front view of the rib cage. And you'd be surprised by just sort of practicing these different perspectives, how much more dynamic some of your drawings will be. All right, so the other thing I kind of want you to think about, as we look at the way these rib cage, look at the way that they're twisting, their perspectives. Those are the kind of things you want to focus on, because, and let me see if I can find a figure here. So the reason you want to think in 3 dimensions and you want to get used to the perspective, especially with the rib cage and the pelvis, is because, again, we don't just shift left to right. We don't, just lean forward. But, and I have a little special guest here, Miss Marvel here. But remember, our body it twists, right? Let me see, get that. It twists, it bends, it turns, her torso, her pelvis, everything turns. And you give, again, some more torque. That's what it's called when you're turning. That's torque. You're giving your midsection, you're twisting around and creating torque. So your pelvis is staying put, your rib cage is staying put, but you're sort of twisting at the center. All right. So that's another thing we want to keep in mind as you draw. How the midsection is twisting and turning, and how that's affecting your rib cage and your pelvis. So do another quick drawing here of just a rib cage. And again, play around with the forms of the rib cage. Try to understand what your perspective is going to be. So I'm going to have this arm kind of hidden over here. The rib cage is going to come up here. It's lifting up a little bit. Maybe you can kind of see underneath it just a little bit. This will be the front. All right, so now I've got this arm kind of out here. This arm kind of coming down here. So he's twisting. And I'm going to put the pelvis down here. And this leg's going to be coming out here like this. And this leg's going to be coming back like this. And then we can exaggerate that midsection a little bit. But the midsection is twisting a little bit. And then this arm you can actually see. So let's make this arm coming out. this. And this arm coming out like this. Okay. So definitely not my best work, but what I want to impress on you is the twisting motion here. So again, that's why you think in 3 dimensions, right? You want to have this twist. You can see that the pelvis down here is starting to twist. This leg is coming back this way. This leg's coming in front this way. This arm's swinging up. This arm's in the back here. It's behind the rib cage, right? So this part of this arm is hidden, but you can see all of this arm, right? This is the shoulder here, and then you have the bicep here, and then the forearm here. And then you have the legs here, and you can see as I start drawing more and more over, I start getting more and more detail until I finally kind of get an idea of the shape, or you know, the concept that I want. Is it working? Does it feel, you know, what way do I want the head pointing? Maybe the head's going to be pointing sort of up like that. I start filling out the legs a little bit better so they actually look like legs, and you have little calf muscles there. But there, really dynamic pose right there. I don't know if that's, maybe you end up turning this into Spider-Man eventually. You can come back and fill this in. And maybe this arm, he's, you know, there's a rope hanging here and he's swinging. This arm, he's getting ready to punch somebody. Who knows what's happening there? But definitely a lot more dynamic, right? You can definitely see and feel the movement in that. Again, not perfect, but it shouldn't be perfect. You shouldn't ever strive for perfect when you're first conceptualizing what your drawing is going to look like or what story you're going to tell. It should look like this. It should look rough. It should look rough around the edges. You should erase. You should go back over lines. Get the pose down that you want first. Very important to get that down first. Everything else you can go back over and start tweaking and perfecting. All right, so let's do one more little exercise and then we can maybe draw together again. The other thing I like to do, and there's this little, I don't know what you want to call it, stick figure. I don't know if it's a stick figure necessarily. But this is where we get back to the bean shape. Remember the bean shape looking something like, you know, something like this. Just looks like a bean. And that's really the body. It's more cartoony. And again, just depending on what you're trying to draw, but you can adapt that. You can adapt that shape. And you know, here's some arms if you want. Maybe the legs kind of over here. This leg is looking straight forward. And then you have the head up here. So that's a pose. Well, I've got a pose down. I like to use this sort of bean shape technique, even if I'm sort of going to be drawing more realistically. For some reason, and again, this is probably just a personal preference, it just helps me simplify what I'm trying to communicate. I mean, you can almost see in this pose, maybe not totally, right? Maybe not totally, you can't see it, but he looks like he's waiting for something, he or she, right? He looks like maybe he's a little frustrated just by the pose. I haven't even drawn clothes, I haven't drawn an expression on the face, but you can tell maybe he's a little tired or he's waiting for something. You could even put the foot if you wanted, maybe it's kind of tapping up and down, you know? But just from that simple pose, I'm telling a story. So I like to experiment with different poses using this bean shape. And like I said, you go back over after you're done with the bean shape and you're satisfied with the story you're telling and start adding details, right? Start making maybe the arms anatomically correct, put some meat on the arms, give some direction, and then you can fill out this shape. Maybe you want the shape of the upper torso, to be more of a triangle, right? And then you bring the hands in, but you figure that out after. All right, so what I like to do is I sort of like to challenge myself, and this is what we'll do together. So I start asking myself, okay, for this character or for this story, I'm going to try to convey excitement. Sometimes when I get authors that I work with and they give me their script or they give me their manuscript or whatever, I have to visualize what's going on just by reading the words, and I have to say, wow, there seems like there's a mood of excitement. And what level is that excitement? So we could have this. So I'm going to start again. Let's do the bean shape again. So just a simple bean shape. And I start thinking to myself, okay, well, what kind of, I'm going to have the person kind of looking up a little bit maybe. And, when people are excited, they sometimes throw their hands up in the air. And I just use these little triangles for hands, because you can go back and work on the perspective, make the perspective a little better. All right, so we got that. And then what would the legs be doing? So maybe the person's running. So maybe the scene is they haven't seen somebody, or they just got great news. And you can put these little triangles here. So I start trying to do stuff like that, excitement. I want to convey excitement with some of these stick figures, right? And this is all this is what they call gesture drawing. And we're doing excitement. So maybe what's another way? And then you can start getting a little more creative with it. So that's kind of on the nose. Let's maybe do one more here where maybe let's stick the stomach out a little bit this way. Again, maybe they're here. Maybe they have their hands right by their faces, right? And it's like this. And maybe the hand, they're together here by the face. That. And this leg is a little turned in this way. Let's erase that, because I don't like that. Let's have the leg turn in this way a little bit. And then it'll turn out this way a little bit. Because maybe they can't hold in their excitement. And then this leg kind of comes over, and you can see this leg's hidden over here, and this leg's kind of on the outside here. That's why you want to think again in 3 dimensions. I want this leg to kind of come in too, like this. And then this, maybe there's an extreme, kind of make this one a little bit more extreme, and there's the foot here. I put a little bend in it. So that reads excitement to me. The person's got their hands close to their face here. All right, this one's got the arms up. So that's a lot of times the way that I start any sort of character drawings is, especially when I have a story that I'm looking to tell. I want to start with the actual pose. Right? So maybe, I don't know, maybe we can do one more. Let's do one more, and then, what I will challenge you guys with is I'm going to give you a mood, and I want you to try to convey it with this one. So I would like you guys to practice drawing this stick figure, right? I like to use little triangles for the joints and just bigger triangles for the hands. And you can see I put little circles for the joints where the elbows are. And I do the same for the legs. And then just little triangles for the feet. So I would like you guys to practice. And I'm going to give you guys a whiteboard link here in a minute. All right, but that's your basic sort of stick figure, right? And then put your lines down so you know which way they're pointing. But I'll just do one more. So let's maybe do, I don't know, why don't we do like maybe concerned? Somebody's concerned about something. Concerned. So a lot of times what I like to do when you're thinking about an emotion, and for anybody who's ever watched an old classic like Walt Disney World cartoon, I don't know, and I'm sure Pixar still does it because it's a lot of the same artists, but go in front of a mirror and think about how you react to certain things, you know, how you would get excited, you know, maybe you get pumped and your fists go up in the air and your head kind of goes down and maybe it goes up one way. For concern, maybe you put your hand over your mouth, or you put your other hand under there and you're looking down, or like this. Look at those poses, and then because this little figure that we're drawing up at the top right hand corner, this guy here, because he's so simple, it just helps you to interpret those movements. So let's do concern, right? Maybe somebody's waiting for somebody to come home and they haven't heard from them. So we'll do, again, a little bean shape just to make sure that you can kind of position everything. Let's have them sort of pointing up again. I'm going to put the hand, like I just did, right by the face. It's on the face. I don't know if it's going to, end up looking exactly like this, and then maybe the arm kind of comes down here. So we have this little triangle arm here, and I'm going to put this hand here, and put this leg here. Again, there's the knee, and you're not really too concerned with proportions yet. Your proportions might be a little off because you're sort of just quickly trying to capture something. And sometimes when you're trying to capture something, you don't want to get too caught up on the actual, details. You can go back and fix that stuff. So there's concern. Maybe they're waiting for somebody. Maybe they just got bad news and they're looking and they're putting their hands on their face and, oh my goodness, I need to think about this. Or they were asked a really important question for concern. So let's go ahead and I'm going to create a whiteboard Fox link. What I would like you guys to do, I'm going to write on the whiteboard Fox an emotion. And I would simply like you to practice with the figure, right? With the stick figure, the bean figure. I call them the bean figure, but you can call it whatever you want. And I will give you an emotion and see if you can convey that emotion with Mr. Bean. We'll call him Mr. Bean. All right, I am copying the link right now. I am going to put it into the Drawing Club stream. Here it goes, paste, it is in there. Whiteboard link. Please let me know if you don't see it. It's posting, it is posted. So if you don't see it, let me know so I know to go ahead and post it again. And let me make sure that I can. All right, so we have the whiteboard up. Again, let me know once you're in here, just write your name. And I am going to go ahead and bring the whiteboard back up here. And I'm going to draw this over here as a reminder. Try to, if you can, perfect. All right, so let's try this, and then we can do some free drawing. If you don't mind, let's try to use this guy here sort of as your template. And I would like to see you guys interpret being sad. Someone that's sad, what would their body language look like? What would that look like? And just tell a story with the body language, right? Just with the body language, not with tears, not with colors, but just pure body language. How do you interpret that? Very cool. I like that you're showing the arrows there. Right, because one of the things that a lot of people that are sad, right, their shoulders are the first thing that drop. Right? I know when I get sad, when people are confident, their shoulders are up here, but when they get sad, their shoulders kind of drop, their back kind of arches, and their head kind of goes down. So that's a great interpretation of being sad. That is very, very good. All right, what about you guys doing? Give me excitement, then concern, very cool. So yeah, if you're just joining us, what I'd like you to do is using this guy here, this little stick figure shape here, Mr. Bean, or whatever sort of stick figure you want to use, I'd like you to interpret everything that I'm writing up at the top just with pure body language. How do you interpret these emotions, right? Don't use facial expressions. Don't use colors, but how do you interpret sadness, excitement, concern? Let's do strength. And then this last one here, this one, let's try, this is a little tougher to interpret. There you go, strength, love it. Sadness, you guys are right on point with that. The head drops, the back arches, and the shoulders go down. I don't need to see expressions. I don't need to see anything else. I'm looking just at your body language. And now this last one that says exhaustion. Remember, when we talk about exhaustion, it's not just about being tired or yawning. It's exhaustion means that you are just absolutely, completely out of energy, right? So how do you interpret that with body language? Not that somebody's just tired, but that they're exhausted. Yeah, these are really well done. I like the concern, Sophia, the one where you have the hands just suddenly crossed. That reads concern to me. Both of these are great. Yep. Very cool. Very cool. Let me see. So I'm going to try mine. strength interpretation. The other hand is over here. It's going to bend in this way. Now exhausted. How would I do exhausted? Let's see. How do I look when I'm exhausted? Maybe have this guy laying down here. Always start with the head. Alright, let's take a look, see what everybody's got here. These are awesome. Emma, Sophia, these are awesome. Exhausted, love the exhausted, the excitement. Yep, the concern. I can read it all without you having to give me one expression, one explanation, anything else. And that's when you know that you are effectively communicating with your art and your drawing. That's what we want to practice, and you want to sort of just get skilled at. Drawing simple forms and shapes that communicate so much, right? Because then the details that you add on to it, the details that you add on to these simple shapes, that's just going to be icing on the cake. But you can't start with those small details if you don't have the bigger picture realized. And I've been in that situation where I forget the bigger picture and what I want to communicate, and I start thinking about the small details, and I spend hours, I spend days, weeks sometimes on something, and I keep stepping back and I keep thinking to myself, something just isn't right. I want this character to seem sad or excited, and it's not coming off, not paying attention to. So always start with the simple shapes and the body language, And you guys, again, blowing me away, just how well you guys already do some of this stuff. This is incredible, incredible work. Absolutely incredible. Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. All right, gang, I'm going to go ahead and we got a couple minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping things up. Continue to draw. I'll leave the link up as well if you guys want to hang out and continue to draw. I love this strength that's coming in here. Whoever's drawing that, you're lifting up whatever that is. Looks like a big rock, but yeah, that reads strength to me. So the concern, all of these, if you didn't write next to it what they were, I would know what they are. And that's when you know that you are effectively communicating emotion and story. Emotion and story, just through these simple forms. Don't worry about your details. I can read all of these. I love going back over these and looking at them. These are so cool. Yeah, these are well done. Everybody, just awesome job today. These look fantastic. I'm going to go ahead, like I said, wrap things up. I will see you guys next Friday. We'll have some more stuff going on. I'm going to try to get some more of our self-distancing challenges out. I sent one out earlier this week. I can't remember what day. I didn't get too many responses, but the prompt was healthcare heroes. I would love to show off some of your work to other teachers and other schools. And I know one of the things I tell my design class, well, and really I tell all my classes this same thing, because most all my class work and be emotionally invested in it, is to try to do something that is relevant. And by relevant, I mean something that's important now, that's happening now. So listen, I love Star Wars and I love Masters of the Universe, and that's what I draw in my spare time, and I love practicing all that. But every once in a while, I try to sort of pay attention to the world and what's going on, and try to even take my style, and it could be a Star Wars figure that's, bowing down to a nurse or whatever, but I try to incorporate some type of relevant social piece into it, because it will draw attention to you and your work, and it will also draw attention to an important cause. So if you can, I would love some of you guys, some of you great artists, and anybody in the drawing club to submit something that has to do with healthcare heroes, nurses, doctors. If you actually want to do something for teachers too, that would be awesome. That's a big audience right now is teachers, and I will share that with our community, meaning our schools and our teachers. So, guys, keep doing what you're doing. I'll try to get another prompt out today. Keep supporting each other. Keep practicing, and I will see you guys next Friday. Bye.